I'm Carol Page, your hostess for Women to Women, and as always, we have a very special person I'm about to introduce. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Carpenter Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, balsamic vinegar, and international teas, as well as Vila Basque, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo. So here in Carson City, let's welcome Teresa Ohl with us tonight. Teresa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for taking time from a very busy day. You know, one of the reasons that, Teresa, there are several reasons I'm really interested in getting to know you and having our listening audience getting to know you, because you represent, in part, the pawn business. And we have seen several pawn shows now that have become extremely popular. And we all want to know, are they for real? Is that what it's really like? But before we even get there, okay, let's talk about you. Let's talk about where you grew up. Are you an actual Nevadan?
I'm actually from the LA area. I'm from the San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
And I met my husband. We got married back in, I met him in 86. We got married in 89. Mm-hmm. We decided to come to Tahoe for our honeymoon. And we fell in love with it.
Who can resist it?
Exactly. And so that was when the LA houses were booming before our big crash here, but back in 89. So we went back and sold our house, and we ended up moving into Incline Village for my first year anniversary. That's where we were.
It's a beautiful, this is a beautiful state in many ways. Now, when you grew up in California, in the valley, so to speak, who were you as a young girl?
You know, that one was when Madonna was really big. And so I definitely was one of those valley girls. I actually still wear the one earring in my ear like I did back then, and the gloves and the whole thing. So it was more of a Madonna thing back then. And, you know, we were a lot more crazier, I guess, in the 80s in LA.
What was it like growing up in your family?
Now, in my family, unfortunately, my mother did raise 5 of us alone.
Bless her heart.
Yeah, she did. She would be really proud of us. Unfortunately, she has passed on, but I had a very abusive father. And through that, I have learned a lot. And we do help. I do a lot of help with advocates to end domestic violence, because we did have a lot of violence in my family. But I want people to know that that cycle can be broken.
Absolutely.
It can be broken, and I am proof of that. You know, and that you can be successful, and you don't have to say, my childhood was so terrible that this is why I am the way I am.
Okay, in case there are listeners, there are viewers out there, Teresa, and I know that we have teenage listeners, I know that we have young women, young mothers, single mothers, and it's very, very challenging as a single parent, as a mother, to have raised 5 children. If we just go back to that aspect, where were you in the pecking order of the children? Are you the oldest, the middle, the last?
I'm actually the middle child. Out of 4 of us, I am the third one.
Okay.
No, excuse me. I'm the third one that was born. And I was always the troublemaker. I was always getting in trouble in school, but I kept at it, and it was a very big struggle for me, because I did struggle in school. But I asked for help. I may have not gotten A's and B's, but I got enough to graduate, to get a diploma.
Right.
And that's what's important, you know, and there's no shame in asking for the help if you really need it.
Absolutely not. And I think that that's an encouragement right there to others who say, who do I go to? I want to share with someone, but I'm not sure. Who did you go to, Teresa?
I had mentors, and I started at the YMCA when I was 16 years old, and they taught me a lot about job hunting and the way to treat people, and so I did learn a lot actually from the YMCA around that age. Now, I was a young mother also. I was a mother at 18, and I raised my son until he was 6. And again, you know, I was a waitress, so I had money every day and again, you can get the help or you can do it. I mean, I worked and I still had my child, and, you know, we were together for a long time. And then when I met my husband, he adopted my son, and that was really, really nice because they have an awesome relationship. Yeah.
Now, would you give your mother credit as to some of the ideas or some of the thinkings that you had at the time you became a mother? She raised 5 of us. I had this young son. Was anything that you experienced with your mom and with the rest of your brothers and sisters helpful to you? Are you close as a family? Are you close as brothers and sisters?
You know, we got a lot closer as we got older.
Yes.
But my mother did give me the strength. She let me know that you can go back to school. She had 4 of us, and she went back to school to better herself, and she became a registered nurse and worked in the hospitals.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was a great encouragement to me to know that I can do it, and we all became very close as we gotten older. Unfortunately, my mother passed away. She got pancreatic cancer when she was 50, and that was 21 years ago. So back then, cancer took you a lot faster than it does now, now that they have a lot. So I support a lot of people, the Cancer Society and all that, because it's very important. If you don't have it, just to be out there to give whatever you can,
And quite often pancreatic cancer runs in families. It can be genetic.
Yeah, sometimes it can, and so it makes me worry, but as long as you keep yourself healthy, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
I quit smoking. You can do that too. The people out there say, I can't do it, you can quit. You can quit. And it's been 15 years for that too.
Teresa, what kept you going? For example, in some of your most challenging of times, do you talk to yourself? Was there a special person or people, friends, family members, relatives? How did you find someone that was kind of informal? It was not necessarily always a mentor, but it might have been a very special friend that was a good listener. That was someone who said, and they thought for themselves, but as they're listening to you, they're also absorbing what you're saying, but they have a sense of independent thinking that you can bounce ideas off of and know that they're legitimate. They're not just sympathizing with you. They're not just patronizing you, but they're actually there to be of great value in listening. Did you have someone like that?
I'm a very religious person, and I truly believe in the power of prayer. And my person was God, and I prayed the same prayer because I was very lost. I was into drugs very heavily back then, and then my life started turning around. And I prayed and prayed and prayed that God would bring me somebody that was not like me, that didn't do, that was not on that dark side, because I needed somebody not to be on the dark side. He brought my husband, John, and we are so opposite, and he never drank, he never did drugs. He was that answer. I prayed the same prayer for 4 years. And then through the power of God, it had to be. We met again several times, and we ended up getting married, and I have 3 boys, and I have a granddaughter now, and
how long have you been married?
We just had our 23rd wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we've been together for 26, and 17 of those we've worked together, so that's a miracle all by itself.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. My husband and I would attest to that, too.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you this one final question in terms of your childhood growing up. Was faith an important part of your home life, or was it something that was kind of alien to you?
It's funny because faith was kind of alien or whatever you're saying about a religion, but when I was on my darkest times, the Lord had people knocking on my door. The people that were knocking on my door were actually my friends that I used to party with who had found God, and now one of them's a pastor, and they showed up in my door and said, we were told to come here, and then the rest was history.
Isn't it amazing when you look back and you think of where you were and where you are today, in your heart and in your understanding of life in general? It really makes you pause and come to comprehend, come to the realization that it wasn't just you that was involved in your life.
That's true.
And it really makes you think, wow, how did that individual walk up to my door? Who created that? Who made that possible? And it changes us.
It absolutely changes us.
It changes us.
And and it doesn't all become roses after the first day.
Nope.
People go, "Oh, you're this Christian, everything is great." Well, no, we have a better light that we can look forward to. You know what I mean? We're still all human. We still have our ups. We still have our downs. We have our financial issues. We have kids that are not as good as you want them to be. I mean,
our children teach us so much. And when we think we're going to be that perfect parent, and those of you who are listening, trying to raise children, regardless of the age, Don't keep knocking yourself over thinking, okay, I failed here, I failed there. It is tough to be a parent, and it's something that we learn together as children and parents very often, but it really does, as a retired teacher of a classroom in 30 years, when they have a framework around themselves, a benchmark, and they know when they're treading, they're pushing themselves towards the edge of the table, that envelope, that's good, because inside there's a hesitation, and their decision will result in consequences. Sometimes good or bad.
I have a son that's 32, and unfortunately he went to that dark side. And I want parents to know, if you think it's as bad as it can always get worse. But you have to use tough love. You can't keep bailing your children out. You can't keep giving them money. You can't keep doing excuses for them. If you feel like you have to prosecute them, but you're their parents and you can't. If you want to save their lives, I know it, I live it. Help them, and if it takes doing the drastic thing that you have to do to get your children back on the right track. Remember, you can be a great parent, but they're only, it's what your kids decide to do. So I truly believe in supporting your children and having tough love and being stern with them to keep them straight. Sometimes they stray, and have hope and faith, and things will work out sooner or later.
Good advice coming from someone who's experienced in it. Teresa, let me ask you, what made you and your husband decide to work in the pawn business?
My husband knew about the pawn business when I first met him, and I knew nothing about it. I used to work in a bank, so I was still a financial officer, loaning money, just in a different way.
Good background.
And it was nice, and it was out in LA, and then I came here, and my husband just started in the pawn business, and we ran a couple pawn stores out in Reno that are no longer there, but he brought me into it, and the next thing you know, we have come over to Capital City Loans. I went first, and my husband went, and that's been it. We've been working together ever since. It's a wonderful business. People have the wrong idea of it. And the things that go on, so I'm here to straighten it out a little bit.
Okay, and when we come back in the second half, we're going to do exactly that.
Great.
Because we have seen pawn shows now on television. Some of them are really wild, and you wonder why anybody in their right mind would come to work every day to face this language, behaviors, attitudes. So, does it exist in Carson City? We're going to find out. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
When a disaster strikes our region, will you be ready? Learn about sheltering in place. Since each emergency is different, make sure you plan for alternate routes away from your neighborhood. Plan meeting places and long-distance phone numbers if you are separated. Assemble food, water, medicines for at least 3 days, and a portable radio to stay informed. Remember, make a plan, assemble a kit, stay informed, be ready. For more information, contact your local emergency manager.
How was school today?
Cool, we learned what to do in case there's an emergency.
Oh, will you show me?
Yeah, and if there is an earthquake, then you get under your desk, duck, cover, and hold. And when the shaking stops,
we evacuate the school just like a fire drill.
I'm glad you both know what to do in case of an emergency, but I'd still be worried.
You're supposed to check the phone, radio, or TV, and they'll tell you what to do.
Make a plan.
Assemble a kit. Stay informed.
And be ready.
Pets of the Homeless is a non-profit, all-volunteer organization that provides pet food and veterinary care to the homeless and less fortunate in local communities.
With donations from the public, we're able to provide homeless shelters with crates, bowls, cleaning materials, so that homeless with pets can come into homeless shelters and get the services that they need to get out of homelessness.
Here is something informative and inspiring. Women to Women. Every Thursday, a new guest and a new passion to inspire you. Your hostess, Carol Paz, interviews influential women of Northern Nevada. Your neighbors, your friends. These are the women who are making a difference in our community, from helping those in need to running your favorite local businesses. We give you their story, we show you their passion. Thursdays at 7 p.m., Channel 15 for Carson City and Gardnerville, Channel 3 in Reno, Sparks, Fernley, Fallon, and Lake Tahoe.
Welcome back to the second half of Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, with Teresa Ohl from Capital City Loan here in Carson City. And I just want to remind our audience that you may write us anytime to our P.O. Box, which will be on the screen. You may ask any questions you want to about the program or any questions that you have that you'd like to have us address. And at the same time, realize that our guest is always the star of the show. I'm just a moderator. So these are words of wisdom and experience that are coming from each one of our guests, and we want to serve as that function, that support, encouragement out there to you. So Teresa, we are back in to the pawn business again, okay? And help us understand if what we see, now I'm not going to name them by name, okay? But those of us who do a lot of surfing, okay, come across these programs, and is it the real thing that we're watching from Detroit or from Las Vegas? Is that the real pawn business, so to speak?
You know, it is the real pawn business.
Okay.
Some have a little more drama than the others.
Definitely.
There are specialists, but it is pretty much true to form. It just depends on what state you are, you know, because a pawn is different in different states. Sometimes California has lower interest rates. Detroit might have a little higher. They also have different terms, whether it be a 30-day loan or more.
Okay, so help those of us out there in the viewing audience who we've heard the term pawn business, but we're not really sure what it means. What is a pawn business?
Pawn business is when you bring something in for collateral and you get a loan against it. And in our pawn store, we give you 4 months plus a 21-day grace period. Different pawn stores have different ways. Several pawn stores in Carson City have raised their rates. So that's something to ask about when you go into a pawn store. They've gone up to 13%. But we're here to help the community, and people get the wrong idea of pawn stores. They think it's either people, you know, maybe for whatever reason they're coming in. A lot of people think it's not for good reasons. But unfortunately, with gas the way it is,
right,
prescriptions for seniors the way it is, we end up actually being a bank to certain people. They have their stuff in and they have it out. A lot of people don't trust banks anymore. So again, you know, we're like their bank. They'll have their stuff in and out.
We deposit with you and then we come and take it out when we need it.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it is. But a lot of people were doing, when gas spiked, you know, or when the prescription spiked, people come in just to get some medicine or, you know, get some money for medicine or doctor appointments or whatever the case may be.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Just in general, what do people bring in? We've often heard anything can walk through that door. Is that true?
That is true. We get a lot of different items, and a lot of pawn stores on TV do also. Most of the stuff, if you want to know if your stuff is valuable, eBay is the way to do it, because there's millions and millions of people on eBay, and that's where your stuff's going to be worth, because you're opening up like a sales floor to the whole entire world. So it just depends. And so we give you a percentage of it. We lock it up. If it's jewelry, instead of, because gold is really high right now, so you can't replace your gold. So what I suggest to people is go ahead and get a collateral loan on your gold. We security seal the envelopes and we lock them in a vault. That way you can keep your gold and just get a loan on it. And that way you can keep it, not have to replace it, especially if it's sentimental. You know, it's very important. And you just can't replace gold at the prices anymore.
Do you deal with the attitudes that Detroit does? Do you deal with the language? Do you deal with the drama? I watch that primarily I want to learn about the pawn business, okay? I'm curious what people bring in. And it's anything. But I'm also curious as to how they handle those individuals who come in sometimes in desperate need, sometimes with already an agenda on their mind. And they're going to work you over, and they're going to make your store either look good or like it's a trash bin. And how effective is that? I mean, what does it do to a business when you have drama like that in a store? Do you have that? Do you go through that?
You know, once in a while we'll get that one customer that you just can't make happy and just, you know, calls us names and all that. But I take stuff like that with a grain of salt. First of all, sometimes it's hard for people to pawn their items.
Yes.
And sometimes they think their items are worth a lot more money then we're willing to give them.
Yes.
In our pawn store at Capital City Loans, I will actually pull up the item for our customers and let them know, look, at this is what it's really worth. This is what we can pay you. If they want to sell their items, we pay them more because then we could put it out for sale. The laws are very strict on pawn stores. And so we have to hold items for 30 days. And that is to help the sheriff's department. We're on the up and up. And because we want to make sure that the sheriff's department has time to go through the stuff that people pawn to make sure it's not stolen.
Right.
You know, we're very regulated and so that's where it goes. And then we have to hold it for 30 days. And then we can put it out for sale. If it's a loan, our pawn store will let you make a partial interest payment. What that means is when your loan is due, in the 5 pawn stores that are here in Carson City, your interest payments are due at that time, the full amount. In our store, we will let you do a 1-month payment. Let's say you owe 5 months on it, but you only want to pay 1 month. We are here to help the community. We're not here to bury them anymore in their items.
Yes.
So we let them extend it 1 or 2 months because it really does mean something to them, and I want to be able to be there to help them. So we are very flexible in our store.
Okay, question. You've been there how long now?
I have been there for 15 years.
Okay, and in those 15 years, very briefly, if you go back in your thinking, what's one or a couple of the most unusual items you've ever seen come into the store?
Well, we do get a lot of cool items. I've taken in one of our stores, we took in, this gentleman used to have a fake eye, so he would bring in his fake eye. He had 2, and he would get a loan on it, and then bring it back.
It out?
Yeah, well, he had 2, so and it was like, it's like glass, so it's like, it's not gross or anything, but it was funny. And then we've had people come in and pawn their limbs.
They're prostheses.
They're prostheses because they have extra ones.
Yes.
And we make it very light for people in there. We don't make them feel uncomfortable at all.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, we work with a lot of seniors, and sometimes they don't want to be seen. They feel uncomfortable. So we actually have a room that we bring them in, and I have my female employees go in there and help them, make them feel comfortable. And so we give it that extra step to make you feel comfortable.
It's not as public as sometimes we're led to believe on television.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Let me ask you also, Teresa, I know that you're involved in a very special program with wheelchairs. What's that about? Can you tell us in about 3 minutes or less?
I started about 10 years ago. I started giving away wheelchairs because there's a lot of people out in our community here that need power wheelchairs that will help them change their life.
Yes.
A lot of times when people need a wheelchair or a power chair, just calling the scooter store or someplace, it's not that easy. So I am here to help the other people that are not as fortunate enough to get a chair that was donated to them because they're very expensive. I started with my first one at the high school to a young boy who was in a car accident and paralyzed, and he only had a manual wheelchair, and we gave him one for Christmas. It felt so good that I started doing it. I am now up to 50 power chairs and scooters that literally give people freedom like they've never had before. My best one was when a lady needed a wheelchair, and I knew some friends that were going to try to throw her a benefit and try to get a bunch of people come to get it, and they were going to try to plan all this stuff, and they just didn't know where to start. I said, you don't have to start anywhere. I'm giving you one right now. Within 20 minutes, she was at the store, and she was only 33. She had a stroke. She was paralyzed on half her body, and we literally changed her life. And I'm up to 50. And if there's anybody out there that would like to help us with our donations, we do pay for some of the wheelchairs. We don't pay a whole lot because it is, given away, but 100% is given to charity. And that's with manual wheelchairs too. I'm up to 100 on manual wheelchairs. So it's a great charity.
Yes.
We also help the Boys and Girls Club. We try to help them a lot. And we do advocates to end domestic violence. And also the senior center we're a big part of, where I'm also going to supply 7 more wheelchairs in the next 2 weeks. and surprise people at their door. So
you really are involved in the community.
We have to give back. That's what we're here for.
And those kinds of involvements change family lives, individual lives so tremendously. And if anyone has ever known someone who has been, in particular, very young, to have an accident happen and completely catches everybody off guard, and that's a permanent change. Many, many years coming up where adjustments are going to be made. So, Teresa, is there a website or a telephone number that you'd like to put out there to our listening audience that if they are interested in contacting you or contacting Capital City Loans, what would they look for? Who would they call?
You can call and ask for Teresa or Charlotte at Capital City Loans, which is 882-8882, or you can go to our website at capitalcityloans.com.
Okay. So I'm wondering, in the pawn shop business, is it highly competitive? I mean, I'm hearing that there are some very special aspects of Capital City Loans in terms of privacy, in terms of almost saying we're going to personalize this sale for you. It's what your conditions are that we'll work with. It's not necessarily a general rule for everybody. Is that unusual in business today?
We are one of the pawn stores that are different from the rest. We do give people a lot of privacy. Mm-hmm. We treat them with as much dignity as they all deserve. They're not under us. So we treat each and every one of them with dignity.
And do they reciprocate? Are they appreciative of that?
They're very appreciative. As a matter of fact, we have been voted #1 pawn store and customer service pawn store for the last, I think we're 12 years running now. And #1 car salesman, #1 customer service. And that's what we strive. And when people leave, they feel, if I can make them smile by the time they leave, then we know we've done our job. And sometimes it's so hard and people are in tears. And if we can help them and at least explain things to them, they feel a little better about pawning their stuff. I know it's hard, but remember, there is help out there that can help you. And I am Teresa at Capital City Loans. And again, our phone number is 775-882-8882 if you want to talk about any items that you have that you don't know if we would take or not. I'd be more than happy to help you.
Well, we thank you so much for being with us, Teresa. I mean, this is a lot of information for a lot of people. One last quick question, really quick. You're a grandmother, you're a mother, you're a wife. What is the advice that you hope your children pass on to your grandchildren? It's a generational thing. What would you hope that they would advise?
I definitely hope that they all have respect for everybody, young, old, and just treat people the way they should be treated. And I just want from my boys, and I hope they've learned from their father, that just treating people with respect and opening doors for people just out of the blue, letting them in if they need to get in when you're driving. I hope that's what my kids take from us, the care that we have in our heart to give to people that are not as fortunate. And I think my kids have all learned that. And
if we don't teach it, we've blown it.
And if you don't teach it, let them know that, the world is not greener on the other side, and that there's a lot of people, especially in our community in Carson City, feed the children. There's a lot of food for thought. There's a lot of different charities that could use food and things like that. So if you have it,
volunteers.
If you don't know where you can donate any of your items, you can donate them to Capital City Loans, and I will make sure every single donation gets to where you want it to be, whether it be food, clothes, wheelchairs, you name it. We will make sure it gets to the right person.
We hear that, and I'm sure you're agreeing with the audience. You heard it too. So we thank you for being with us. We thank you, Teresa, so much.
Thank you so much.
And we'll look forward to seeing you next week with a brand new guest. Take care. Good night.